Hello, welcome back. Today's video is not going to be too focused on cleaning. Instead, I had a few projects I needed to get done, so I just decided to take you all with me. Just a little recap, my name is Lacey. I live in Japan with my wife and our toddler. We are moving to Florida this June, but our belongings are being packed and shipped in April, so I just wanted to get a few things done before they shipped it. So I either had the supplies for the projects, or I had the project done to be able to ship it with our stuff. I wanted to hole punch these flashcards Emmett got in his Easter basket so they would be able to use while traveling. I was only going to do one set of the flashcards when I decided to do them all since I had the rings to hold them together. This project was super simple. I just used a pen to mark where I wanted to hole punch so they were in relatively similar locations. I loved how these turned out and they've been so much easier to use. Next, I wanted to make this cute little Earth Day project where you just put their little footprint in the reduce, reuse, recycle arrows and put them on some paper. I was inspired by a project on Pinterest that had black handprints on a newspaper, but I decided to add my own little razzle dazzle on this project instead. Here, I just needed to put away Emmett's Easter art projects. I keep all of his art in these portfolio binders I found on Amazon, so they're all in one place, and I would love to give them to him one day when he's all grown up. Next, I needed to undecorate for Easter. My method for undecorating is to gather all of the decor from around the house and put it on the table. Once it's all on the table, I Tetris it into the storage container and call it a day. Okay, so one of the main projects I needed to get done was this manhole cover. If you're not aware, a manhole cover is a maintenance hole cover that is a removable lid to the manhole entrance. Here in Misawa, as around lots of locations throughout the world, they have pretty designs on the cover. So we have an arts and crafts center on base who cuts out these wooden versions of the Misawa cover that you can buy and paint for yourself. I've painted a few of these in the last few months. They've been used for going away gifts for people who are leaving this base. Rachel wanted one of her own, so I needed to get that painted so it can be shipped with our belongings. I try to keep the colors as similar to the original Misawa manhole cover as I can, just to keep it sort of authentic. So for this, I just use a paintbrush for the sky around the tree. This area is kind of, I almost want to just call it hairy. It is plywood that is just cut down, so there's a lot of wood fibers, I assume they're called, that are just in there. So I use a thick layer of paint to paint that down, and then for the tree trunk and the greenery on the leaves, greenery I say delicately, I use these sponges just so that I can get the top of the wood without getting down into the sides. The first one of these I used paintbrush for everything, and it was so hard. It took me like 18 total hours to get it done. This took me about 3 or 4 with the sponges instead of the paintbrushes, as well as the spray paint. The spray paint saved my life. The first one I did, I just made this gray tan version and painted it by hand first, and that took so long compared to the spray paint. And then once that was done, there's this little orange that goes around the manhole cover in the little circles. This is down like the blue behind the tree is as well. So this is kind of difficult to paint, but I paint down in there, and then I did 2 coats of these, but I only filmed one, so I do apologize for that. And then once the orange is all painted, I used a sponge to paint the pink on the cherry blossom flowers that surround the tree. My next thing on the to-do list was to saran wrap all of Emmett's puzzles. I've never done this, but I'm assuming that if the saran wrap holds up, the puzzle pieces will stay inside the saran wrap with the puzzles, so I don't have to open a box when our belongings arrive and have to sort out which puzzles the pieces belong to. If you've done this, let me know, and if you have other solutions for packing puzzles or moving with them, let me know. And here's a little bit of my drive to a store I was going to that day, and I thought it was just kind of cool to see because I primarily drive on the right side of the road in America, so I just figured I would show all of you who drive on the right side of the road what it looks like to drive on the left side. The last thing on the agenda was to make a cake for a baby shower. I'm no cake decorator. I definitely enjoy making cakes for my family, but I don't usually make them for other people. I have no cake training or schooling, so this is all just what I've learned from the internet. It's most definitely not perfect, but here it is. First, Rachel had to make the cakes. We just used a cake mix. We didn't have too much baking supplies since the movers won't really ship pantry items. So, once the cake was all baked and cooled, Rachel layered the cake with 2 types of icing. The one was just a chocolate icing and the other is a whipped cream icing. So if you've never tried that, you probably won't regret it if you do. And then she added dowels. The mom preferred chocolate cake, but the theme of her baby shower is cherry blossoms and Totoro. So we just covered her chocolate cake with vanilla frosting for decorating purposes. And this was most definitely the hardest thing I've tried to do. So I tried to smooth it out and make it look all pretty like everybody on the internet does, but I couldn't do it. So I had Rachel come in and try to make it smooth again. And so we tag teamed this. I think we got it as smooth as we could. I had to dye this white icing pink because of the cherry blossom theme. I added some pink from this Wilton food coloring, which was just this little pink. I added one little drop for the light pink icing, and then once I was done mixing that up, I added the light pink to a little sandwich Ziploc bag before I colored the rest to be a darker pink, which I accidentally made it a little bit too pink. It was a little bit brighter than the cup, but I figured there was no fixing it, and I didn't want to add any more food coloring because it was already very bright, so I didn't want to wreck that. But I think it looked pretty similar, and I was reasonably pleased with how it turned out. So I was just adding chocolate frosting into this piping bag so I could pipe on the tree trunk for the cherry blossom tree. We had also made cupcakes that we would use this chocolate frosting for, so that's why there's so much. I didn't film any of that because those were definitely they gave us a run for our money. I think it's so much harder to decorate cupcakes than it is a cake. So first I used a toothpick to write out the lines in the icing where I wanted to pipe the tree. This immediately felt like a Pinterest fail to me. It was not cute. It was just ugly, but I decided to keep going because it would end up getting cuter, I assumed, which I ended up being pleased with how it looked. It wasn't as beautiful as the Pinterest version was, but I'm guessing that was made by a very highly skilled cake decorator, in which I am not. So first I just used the light pink icing to put the cherry blossoms on there and added the dark pink ones. And then I added these cute little pink dots just because for cherry blossom trees they kind of fall like fall leaves do. And so there's little tiny pink petals everywhere after they're falling down. Once I was done with that, I just needed to add a little Totoro over here. I've never actually seen what this little guy's from, so I don't even know if I'm saying it right, to be honest. So I kept trying to make him and flatten him out, but then I ultimately just covered his eyes with icing, put some parchment paper over the top of him to flatten him out, and tossed the cake in the freezer for a little bit so it would be a little more flat like I wanted. And then I just added the eyes, the nose, mouth, and pupils, and I was finished. Thank you for joining me throughout this wild Get It All Done video. It has been a crazy week getting ready for our movers to come. If you're curious to see how that looks, I hope to have that video up in a couple of weeks since this video comes out the day that our movers are actually packing up our home. So stay tuned for that. Thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you again next time. Bye!